Perfect. And we're live. All right. Welcome everyone to this 9x live session on building a GTM AI agent here live with Lindy.ai. Let me just change my notes here. I need to move some Zoom things over. Perfect. All right. So what do we have in store for today? It's obviously build an AI agent live. So majority of this session will be a live build that we'll be doing or going through. But I want to give a quick introduction in case anyone is new here. So if it's your first time, we're 9x. My name's Jan. I'm one of the co-founders of 9x alongside Piv and Alex. And basically at 9x, we are building your one-stop shop to learn AI and automation. We really believe that AI and automation are the most important skills that you can learn right now as a business professional. And it's our mission to bring you these skills on a silver platter. And we do this in a few different ways. So first of all, via our YouTube channel. Each and every week, we publish free AI and automation tutorials, demos, also the latest AI news, all targeted towards business professionals. It's completely free, as always with YouTube. Subscribe, and I think Kat from the 9x team will be dropping a link there to check out our 9x YouTube channel. As well as on top of our YouTube, each and every week, we run these live workshops like the one that you are all in today. And I'm really excited also about next week's session, continuing the theme on AI agents. We're actually going to be joined from Seb from the Make product team, giving a little bit of a sneak preview. In Munich today, they had their big Make Waves conference, and they are also working on some updates to their AI agents feature. And so we'll be going through with Seb next week. So if there are any Make users as well in the audience, feel free to check out next week's session. And finally, we have our courses, and we've structured these courses to take you pretty much all the way from beginner to advanced when it comes to the world of AI. So we have a free AI starter course that we are launching very, very soon, where you can discover what's possible with AI as a professional. Next up, we have the AI operator, where you can learn to become productive with AI at work. So this is really about using AI as your co-pilot, leveraging tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, or Claude, or really learning the foundations of prompting and prompting techniques. And then we have our advanced program, which is maybe what might be interesting to some of you since it's a topic about AI agents. So our AI Builder program is really teaching you the fundamental skills so that you can learn to automate with AI. And build AI-powered automations and AI agents. And I think Kat from the team has just dropped in some links there. So feel free to check out our courses. And that's the shameless plugs out the way. Now we can get into the fun stuff and head over to the live build sections. We have some very, very special guests with us today. I'm super excited about this session to have Ethan and Marvin from the Lindy team. And we also have a very, very special guest that is joining us so late minute that I couldn't even update the slide. We even have Flo, the CEO of Lindy, here joining us as well. So guys, I'll hand it over to you. Throughout the session, feel free to drop questions in the chat. I'll be monitoring them. We'll have time for Q&A at the end. But also, if there's a question that makes sense, I'm just going to interrupt and bring it up, and we can keep this interactive. So I think Flo, we're handing over to you first.
I think me first, and I'm going to hand it to Flo here in like 90 seconds or so. But first, thank you guys. Thanks you for coming. I know, if you're here on the Pacific time, I know 8 a.m. is early, so thank you for being here with us. But I know we got people all over the world. If you haven't been to one of our workshops before, they're action-packed. We're going to jump right in. We're going to start building. And you'll see it's like 90 minutes. We're going to build 2 pretty crazy agents. We're going to run through the fundamentals. It's pretty dense, but it's a ton of fun. Without further ado, let's just dive in. So pretty quickly here, I want to get you guys set up. We always like to kick these off by helping you guys build your first first agent in 5 minutes, because it really is that easy. If you don't believe us, just stick around. You'll see here pretty shortly. But to do that, before I pass it off to Flo, I want to make sure that you guys are set up to build with us. So there's 2 things you need to have open. 1, you need to create and open a Lindy account, and 2, a workshop guide. Marvin is dropping in the workshop guide and the free signup link. This free signup link is eligible for any new email. So if you have an existing Lindy account that's been on a free plan, just jump on a new email. You'll get credits and be loaded up. Also, just for some context, the workshop guide looks like this. There's also the link to sign up at the top of the workshop guide. And then we're going to have prompts in here that are really useful whenever we're doing our live build, so we can all stay on track. But alrighty, while you guys are doing that, focus on making sure you just have Lindy in your workshop guide up. Don't worry, you're going to have 3 or so minutes before we jump into the first build. But first, I want to quickly just kind of intro us. I guess Chan already did. Very lucky to have Flo with us. I'm Ethan. I help run our partnerships and ecosystem. Marvin runs our community. But really, we just love building agents and sharing with you guys. So what are we going to cover today in this session? So first, we always like to just kick it off, like what is an agent? What is Lindy? Then we're going to build our first agent in 5 minutes. After that, we're going to kind of run through and kind of backtrack and hit the fundamentals of Lindy, and then also do some tech, talk about the easiest way to build agents. And Lindy, you can actually just build agents by describing them. Then, people's usual favorite part of the session is whenever we pass it off to Marvin, people call him a Ferrari builder. You'll see why. He's actually going to build a pretty crazy agent where we're building personalized one-on-one landing pages for outbound. I'm just going to leave it at that. And then at the end, we have some next steps. We're going to share all the templates of the session today with you guys at the end of the session. And we also have some pretty special surprises, especially special for today in the Lindy world. And so, not going to leave it at there, but you're going to want to stick around to the end. But first, just want to kick us off, like what is an agent? And we define an agent at Lindy as whenever the AI decides its own path to take and uses its own tools to reach an objective. And I actually really like this graphic by our friends at 9x. So I know this is really can be a little overwhelming. Really, all I want you to think about is that first top line spectrum of you have automation to agents. And so on the whole full left-hand side, like automation is very rules-based. And so if you've used like Zapier or other automation platforms, it's, if step one happens, then then X happens, then Z, it's very rules-based and fixed. Whereas agents, on the other hand, there are no steps. It's just like an objective and the agent decides the steps on its own. And then in the middle, you have AI workflows where it's a little bit in between, where you have these kind of rules-based and these steps and these processes, but the AI is actually choosing the path in certain situations where you allow it to. So automation is very much the spectrum. I know AI agents are just thrown out there a lot, but I really want you guys to think about this spectrum. And whenever you're using Lindy, we're primarily going to be building everything from the AI workflow to the AI agent side of the spectrum. And with that, I'm going to pass it off to Flo to explain, what is Lindy? No better person to do it than the person who created it himself.
Yeah, thanks, Ethan, and great to be here. Great to see everyone. It's funny. I think I have like my black cat in the background. I feel like a James Bond villain. All right, quick. Can everybody see my screen?
Yeah, looks good.
Great. Yeah, just starting like with a super quick introduction, because that's obviously the first question people have is like, what even is Lindy? The way I like to describe it in a nutshell is Lindy is the world's easiest way to build AI agents. I think every technological revolution goes through three distinct phases, and here I like to use the analogy of the personal computer. So the personal computer, just like the AI agent, has gone through the three phases. So phase one is a toy phase, sort of. It was the Altair for the personal computer. It's like, it doesn't work, but hobbyists get very excited because they can squint and they can see the future and they can see this thing change the world. So that was phase one for the personal computer. Phase one for AI agents was like, some of you may remember like baby GPT or like auto AGI and so forth. Or the opposite, or baby AGI, auto GPT. Doesn't work, very exciting. Phase two is where we've been until very recently. AI agents are going through phase three right now. So phase two is like, okay, it does work, but it's really hard to make it work. That was the Apple II for the PC, right? Like the PC was characterized during phase two by the command line interface instead of the graphical user interface. Like there was no mouse, you had to like know the commands and so forth. Like ditto with AI agents. Like there are a lot of tools right now. You have been able to deploy AI agents in production for a couple of years now. You sort of had to be an engineer. A lot of those tools are extremely complex, and they're embracing the complexity. Like this is not a dig at those tools. I think they're like amazing. Like there is always room for tools that are catering to developers, but that's not what we are. We're not catering to developers. Phase three, the final phase of these revolutions, is the Macintosh for the personal computer. So it's a computer for the rest of us. It's got the mouse, it's got Windows, it's got scrolling bars. Like it's really, it was the first computer that my parents had. It's like you didn't need to be an engineer. You could get value out of this amazing technology. And AI agents are right now going through phase three. We're like in the middle of the transition right now. And I would say the transition started no more than a couple of months ago. And I think we're going to continue this transition over the next 12 months or so. So that's how I like to describe ourselves and what we are and what we aspire to become is like Macintosh of AI agents. You shouldn't have to be an engineer to leverage this amazing technology. You should be able to create your own AI agents with no technical skills in just a couple of minutes. It should be just as simple as creating a Google Sheets. And hopefully we'll see today, like that's not just empty words. Like I think Ethan and Marvin do an amazing job. In just a couple of minutes, like you're gonna get your own agent in production from nothing. And I'll hand it back to Ethan.
Alrighty. Thank you, Flo. Let me grab the screen share back. Like Flo said, it really is this easy. And if you don't believe me, stick around the next 5 to 10 minutes and I bet you will. So thanks, Flo, for coming. Flo might have to jump. We got a pretty busy day today, and I think you guys will see why at the end. But I appreciate Flo for making out. Cool, always cool when you guys get to go. You guys get to meet him. But with that, we're gonna dive into our first agent in the next 3 steps. It's really a 3-step agent. It takes 5 minutes. And this is actually like a full-blown email assistant that manages your inbox. And to set this up, let's just make sure everyone has their Lindy open and their workshop guide. So we've sent out these links. Marvin, if you want to drop them in one more time, maybe we can make sure everyone's set up. So if I'm looking at my screen right here, I have my Lindy homepage open, and I have this workshop guide open, and I'm ready to go. And while I'm giving you guys 30 more seconds to do this, so make sure you do it now to make sure you're ready. But want to show you guys kind of the end result of what this agent we're going to build actually looks like. And so this is an email agent, and I'm showing you an example run history of this email agent. And what this email agent does is every time an email comes to my inbox, I first label it. So my agent labels it, so it's categorized in my folders. And then if it needs a reply, the agent is going to draft a reply in my voice so that I can just one-click send to all my emails. So it's a pretty, I don't know, easy agent, but I think really high leverage, especially when you think of the volume of emails coming in your inbox. And so if I look at this run history, I have this kind of example email like, hey, can you please update your Q4 KPIs? Like, please, include these things, etc. And so then my agent goes ahead and adds a label based off the criteria I gave it. So it actually added a label in my inbox, action. So that case, I have an action folder, and I always like, I like that folder to just go and check and make sure all my action items are complete, especially at the end of the day. And then it determined, hey, actually, we do need to make a response here. Like, we do need to draft a response. Since it asked me something, it's not like it's just a marketing email. And so it actually drafted this reply for me, like, hey, will do, have these updated. Thanks for the reminder. And then that just appears in my Gmail, just like a draft. I can literally just one-click send. If I wanted to, I could take off the training wheels and just let it send. But at least for my personal inbox, I like to keep a human in the loop. And it actually looks pretty simple. It's only a couple steps. And yeah, so we're going to dive in. If we could get a couple thumbs up. Do you guys have your Lindy open, have your workshop guide? Can we get some thumbs up? How are we feeling?
Yeah, looking good. I see a ton of thumbs up.
Very nice.
Okay, amazing, amazing. So kind of just orienting ourselves here. We're going to throw into the deep end a little bit, but we'll make sure to answer questions as we go along. And then after we do this, we're going to go ahead and cover the Lindy fundamentals. Then Marvin's going to run it back all over again. So I promise to stick with us. And we're going to share everything with you guys at the end of the session as well. So this is our homepage. You can see all of our agents on the left-hand side. But to start a new agent from scratch, we're just going to click on New Agent on the left-hand side. And we're going to start from scratch. So you can create agents just by describing them, and we're going to show you how to do this in a little bit. But I always like to start from scratch just to understand the fundamentals and what we're doing, because it makes us that much more powerful when actually we're using this text-to-agent tool. So once we click on New Agent, we're going to click Start from Scratch. And then once we go and start from scratch, it'll take us to this blank flow editor. If you've used other tools, automation tools, or agent builder tools, this probably looks a little bit familiar. But yeah, so the flow editor right here is just everywhere where we kind of configure and create our agents. And there's a couple important tabs that we'll get to in a moment. Very first thing I like to do whenever I start a new agent, I always like to just rename it to stay organized. So I'm going to go ahead in my top left and just say, email assistant. Feel free to name it anything you want. It just helps me stay organized. You can also star it, keep it at the top. But first, we need to tell our agent when to wake up. And so that's why we have triggers. So there's a lot of ways to tell your agent when to wake up. You can tell your agent to wake up on event-based. So example, when an email is received, you could tell your agent to wake up at a specific time, like 8 a.m. every day. You can also tell your agent to wake up through a message, kind of like a custom GPT. But in this case, for the email agent, we want to wake it up whenever we receive an email. So if you can click on that select trigger right here, this will take you to our action modal. And so in here, you can see all of our integrations and all our actions. We have over 5,000 on platform, so odds are if you use it, it's on here.
Yeah, and Ethan, We had a couple of questions already if this same thing can be done in Outlook, and you'll see it right there on the screen, right? Obviously, I think we'll be doing
Totally.
Gmail, but Outlook totally works also.
Great question. Some of the actions in the fields look a little bit different. So when in doubt, leave it on auto, which we'll talk about in a little bit, but totally follow along in Outlook. Very same process, very similar actions. But I'm going to click Gmail in this case. So I'm going to click Gmail, and I'm going to use the very first one, email received. And so what this is going to do is agent's going to wake up every time I get an email. So pretty straightforward. Now, if you have not used Lindy before, odds are you probably see this orange button to connect on the right-hand side. If you just click on that, it'll send you through an OAuth process, and maybe in like 10 seconds, it'll be connected to your inbox. So I'm going to pause just for a moment while people do that. And then on the right-hand side, kind of the theme of Lindy here is we have our actions in the flow editor, and then whenever you click into the actions on the right-hand side, you can see all of the configuration. So depending on the type of action, there's a lot of special types of steps, which we'll talk more about later. But all these things on the right-hand side are configurations for these actual things on the flow editor. All right, but then keep going. So we have this email received trigger. The very next step I want to do is label my email. So very important just to think about things and workflows and steps. So email received, add label. If it needs a reply, draft an email. Those are really the 4 steps we're looking to do. So I'm going to go ahead and click perform an action. And so I'm going to perform an action. And again, we'll get taken to our action picker. So triggers to let our agent know when to wake up. Actions actually do the work. And there's a lot of different types of actions we have here. So I'm going to go ahead and click on Gmail again. And I'm going to add the add label to email action just like this. Let's see. So I'm going to expand my chat just to see how people are going. And for those of you who are new to kind of Marvin and I sessions too, just know we usually kind of start slow, make sure everyone's along with us. And by the end, Marvin's going really fast. So there really is like a session where we try to meet our 2 types of audiences. And then we do send everything else in the back. So, we're getting people up to speed here, but don't worry, it's going to pick up if you're someone who's a little more excited or more used to Lindy as well. Okay, I see some people still connecting to the email. That's okay. While you guys are doing that, I want to talk about fields for a second. So fields are the blanks to fill in that actually help your action know what to do. So in this case, the label, obviously, is a field that is actually going to be the label that appears in your inbox. So if I just were to say this label is urgent, for example, all my emails would just be labeled urgent. But the really powerful part about Lindy is fields have 3 different action types or 3 different ways to configure them. That is not a little bit different than other platforms. And so I'm going to use kind of the email send example because I think that makes more sense. Is if I'm sending an email example, the body is a field. Now I could just leave that field on auto, and what that's going to do is because Lindy manages all the memory for you, the AI is going to look at my whole everything that's going on. It's going to look at the email coming in the context and draft an email in that body for me. So if I leave it on auto, this is pretty much just saying magic autocomplete. The AI is going to figure it out. Now, prompt mode is really special because it's like instructed autocomplete. So this is almost like you're talking to ChatGPT or Claude in the field. So I could actually say, hey, like write the body concise, like all these things, give it my style tone, and it's going to do that. Whereas on the whole other end of the spectrum, manual is fixed. These are like, specific, you can use specific variables. You can make it the same every time. But there's a whole spectrum of how to configure fields, which we'll revisit again. But for our label example, if we head over to our workshop guide, so you can see they're pretty labeled here pretty clearly. We're in Agent 1 email assistant. So we're going to go in prompt 1 label. You can see there's this email classification prompt. I kind of went overkill on this. I always like to just be a little bit specific and extra with my prompts. So you don't need to have your prompts to be this long, especially in your fields. But I'm going to go ahead and copy this label prompt. I'm going to bring this prompt into my email assistant. And under the label field, I'm going to turn this into prompt mode and paste in this prompt. And so what this is doing is actually the label that it's going to apply is going to be one of these things. And I gave it some criteria. So I'm basically talking to the AI in the platform just like this. So this is going to go ahead and talk to Claude. It's going to fill out, hey, based on the context, this is urgent, this is action, or this is opportunity. So I gave it instructions to fill it out. I see some people asking, where do we get the prompt? It's going to be that prompt guide if you guys want to jump in it a little bit. If you want to share the guide one more time, Marvin. So in the guide, again, you're going to see our Agent 1 email assistant. We have prompt 1 label, prompt 2 condition, prompt 3 some reply. All these things are going to be here. Don't worry if it loses the formatting. it's not worry, the AI doesn't really care how this is formatted. So if it looks a little bit different. Alrighty, so all we did is change this one field. Now, I'm going to add a next step. Sometimes we get emails in our inbox, but we don't actually need to reply. Like, if 9x is inviting me to an event on Luma, I probably want to go ahead and click sign up, but I don't actually need to reply. But the nice thing here is the AI actually has context and is pretty context aware to decide when it needs to reply or not. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to click plus one more time, and I'm going to click on condition. And in this condition step, conditions let you just decide past your agent. We're going to talk more about them later. But the beauty of conditions is you can just define them in natural language. And so say you have like a customer support inbox, you could just say like, hey, if the customer requested a refund, go this way. Or if the customer is happy, go this way. If they're upset, go this way. So previously, sometimes you have to like really aggressively keyword match, and this get really messy. But the beauty of Lindy is just everything is super natural language. So all I have to do here is go down this path if the email needs a reply. I have a longer prompt in the guide, but I'm just going to go ahead and just keep it this simple just for you guys. Let's see. Alrighty. So just to kind of recap where we are, I see some people asking a few questions. Maybe if you think this is a good speed, maybe if we get some thumbs up. If you guys want to pause for a second, maybe give some hearts. Marvin, what's kind of the pulse here?
I see a bunch of thumbs up, one heart, two hearts. Yeah, a couple of people struggle to follow along. I think
Okay.
some people had the question about the email receive trigger on the filter because they see that warning and
Oh,
don't
yeah.
really know what to do about it.
Totally. So this warning specifically is obviously if our agent's waking up every time we get an email, maybe your inbox gets like 200 emails a day or something. If you're dealing with that high volume, you're at risk to actually have an expensive agent, and so the reason why you have this is you can create filters like, hey, only let emails through from this address or from this subject. So it just lets you filter some of these. It really depends on your agents. The one we're building right now usually runs in less than 5 credits. And so you can really just let it run on all your emails, and it's not that big of a deal. It's more of like if you have an expensive agent running off the email, this just lets you filter what's coming in to reduce the volume.
I can definitely attest to it. So we have these agents set up for
Yeah.
ourselves. We all have our own email agent in Lindy. One that I would definitely recommend to filter is if the email contains no reply at. If it contains no reply at, typically we don't need to send that to our agent, and that's a very good one to, because I'm on a lot of marketing lists, and this was just like burning through the credits for me.
Totally. All right, we're gonna keep rolling here. We got one more step for this agent, and then we're done. So we're gonna go ahead and click one more plus after our condition. And this last action we're going to add is just Gmail send reply. So again, maybe I clicked that a little too fast. So I'm going to click plus over here. We'll head back to our Gmail action. And you're going to see send reply just like that. Alrighty. Now, maybe this is the most important thing if you added send reply. If you don't want the Lindy to just send emails on your behalf without us knowing, so please focus at least for this 5 seconds, is if you click on send reply and scroll down all the way to the bottom, you'll see this save as draft toggle. So you can just toggle that on. And what this means is whenever you're sending a reply, it'll always get saved as a draft, so you can approve it. It's not just going to send it for you. If you just add this action and don't toggle it on, Lindy's just going to send the email. So please make sure to send the reply just like that. Now, after we toggle that on, if we scroll up, we talked about how fields have these different configurations. So right now in auto, it's just the AI is going to automatically reply with all the information from the email and so forth. But I want to be more specific about my style and the prompt. And so what I'm going to do here is I'm going to go ahead and click on prompt, which basically turns this body into instructed autocomplete. So I could say like, hey, reply to the email like extremely friendly, and then all my emails will get replied to extremely friendly. So it just gives you more control. But I actually have a specific email prompt in the workshop guide. So if you head to prompt 3, I'm going to go ahead and paste prompt 3, send reply into the body field, just like that. Alrighty. And just a reminder too, I think we're going to send out the recording. We're sending out these templates. So if you just want to observe, you're more than welcome to. But I think most people are following along, so we're going to keep this pace. So now that we have this, we're all done. So we're gonna go ahead and you can turn on your agent or click deploy, which is basically like save. And then if you toggle on this little toggle on the top left, that means your agent's enabled. But yeah, basically this is an email agent already. Like, so we built our first agent, and maybe the past 15 minutes, every time I get an email, it's gonna get labeled and a drafted reply, like with the style I gave it. It's really that easy. And I actually want to show you guys what this looks like live. Before I'll do one more recap of just kind of the agent. So the flow editor is where we configure and make these agents. The tasks is where it's kind of like your mission control for the agent. So we call a task like a run or a job. So every time your agent processes an email, that would be considered a task, and it would appear right here. So I'm going to go ahead and send myself an email real quick, and we'll go ahead and see it populate here. So again, flow editor is where we configure our agents and where you can kind of configure all the logic and these different steps. If we head over to the task view, this is where you're actually going to see the run history, and it's like your mission control for the agent. So if I go ahead and refresh, you can see I sent myself an email. The email was received, so this is the email trigger. It came in just like that. Based off of the prompts we put in, it decided to label this email action because it asked me to reply to hold my Agent Academy spot. The condition, I went through the condition step and determined, hey, the email needs a reply. And we got this nice concise email reply drafted based off my tone, like, hey, I'd like to reserve a spot. So just like that, it's set up. And again, we're going to share these with you guys. And this is a recap of what we did to configure this. Is we added the email received trigger onto our flow editor. We added the label action, the Gmail label action. And all we did was change one field. We changed the label name to prompt and kind of instructed the agent how to fill in their Gmail label. And then we added a condition step and just said, hey, continue if the email needs a reply. And then we added the send reply action, and we changed the body to prompt mode. And we gave it some information about our style. Feel free to customize that to your liking. But there we go. We had our agent, which is pretty wild.
Super nice.
I see.
Ethan, we already had a really, really great question on Graham just before I guess I hand over to Marvin for some other questions. Asking on this, is it best practice to break down the response needed path? So you could have actually several paths depending on the subtopic. So you could give even more specific prompts.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm just keeping it easy for you guys. But my personal inbox one, I know what kind of emails I get, and so I have a ton of different conditions like partnership opportunity, or our customer support one obviously is different with like, hey, they requested for this or they requested for that. But you can add as many conditions as you want and branch your email so you can be more specific with how you're applying, what actions you're taking. The conditions are really powerful. And then I also said someone was asking about, hey, is this like best practice just to keep the prompt short like this? It's pretty good. You can keep the prompt short like this. Like it really is that easy. For absolute best practice, you can always add examples in the prompts as well. And if you ever want to turn off the agent, you can I see someone asking that, you can just disable, enable. It really is that easy. All right, any other main questions? Or I know we do have a lot to get through too, so we could also keep rolling. Marvin, what do you see in the chat?
I think one question that many people actually asked is about, again, the filter. People seem interested in the filter. So the question is about like how to actually set it up for the example Jan mentioned regarding the no reply.
Yeah. So I think it was you just didn't want to reply to no reply at Lindy. Was that the
Exactly. Like if an email is coming from no reply at, then I don't even run the workflow.
Sweet. Yeah. So in this case, I would go ahead and turn on this filter events. And then you can select which filters to filter on. So I could say, hey, if it's from, let's see, I want to say maybe does not equal like no reply. I don't know what the exact email address is. Maybe it's something like this, Lindy.ai, or you could just do all no replies. But now in this case, the agent won't even wake up anytime a no reply from Lindy email came in. So pretty powerful. All righty. I think let's keep rolling. So congrats. We built our first agent in 5 minutes. Like it's really only a couple clicks, and you can see kind of the fields make it really easy to prompt to configure these how you want. There's also an even easier way to build agents we're going to talk more about in a little bit, and we're also going to revisit the Lindy fundamentals. And so everything you saw today, hopefully, or right now, will make a little bit more sense. But that's just like one example of what you can build with Lindy, and that's like a pretty simple example. People are always like, oh, what are the crazy agents that your team has? And so I always like to show this one. This is actually our Lindy, our sales leader, she has an insane note taker. So every sales call she has, it updates our CRM in HubSpot. It manages all of her follow-up emails for like the next month. It sends proposals. It also like appends to the spreadsheet where we have like 100 columns tracking all these variables of what's going on in our sales calls. It appends to the spreadsheet and does all those things so we can go back and kind of analyze what's going on with our sales calls. Grills her and gives her feedback and coaching feedback. So this is a really cool example of Lindy's honestly one of our best agent builders and how she has kind of molded this agent to help herself. So that one's pretty cool. I honestly think, I don't know what you think, Marvin. I think a lot of times simple agents are the best, but you really can go ahead and start tricking them out.
100% agree. One of my most of my high leverage agents are actually like 3-step agents. So really like you don't have to go wild while building these kind of agents. Keep it simple. Think in like small tasks versus like trying to replace the full human, right? You're gonna get a lot out of Lindy already.
Absolutely. All right. We're going to keep rolling. Now I want to quickly head through Lindy 101. So now you guys have at least seen the platform a little bit if you're new. It's a little bit easier to kind of backtrack and explain some of these things. And then we're also going to talk about how to create agents just by simply describing them in text, which is pretty wild. But first, Marvin's going to have a quick lesson. Everyone's always asking us, how do you prompt? How do you come up with the best prompts for these agents? And oftentimes simple is best, but there also is a lot of ways to kind of trick out your prompts. And I'm just going to leave it at Marvin. We both do the exact same thing.
Yeah. All right. I'm gonna share my screen right here. Cool. So honestly, I keep my prompting very, very simple. I just use Whisperflow and voice over whatever I need to build for my prompts. And usually I go into Claude. I also have an agent for specific use cases inside of my Lindy account to help me with prompting. But the way I usually go about it is literally talk about whatever I need in terms of prompting, about the context. Because if you just like free flow talking, you'll have a lot of these little details you usually lose whenever you try to prompt it yourself. And generally speaking, Claude has a lot more ideas than I do. It's super helpful. So just to quickly demonstrate that, I have a hotkey here I can press, and that will start the recording for me to like kind of transcribe whatever I say. I want to build an agent that helps me research prospects on LinkedIn, as well as using people data labs. I want the agent to find information about their company, about their background, maybe some information about what makes it easy to sell them agents, just to make it interesting. Please help me write the prompt. Ideally, return the prompt in a code block so it's easy for me to copy and paste. Use prompting best practices you know about. Right. Now I have my prompt to hand over to Claude. I hit enter, and usually this will already give me like a great starting point in order to continue working on that. Currently, I have like extended thinking enabled to make the LLM a little bit smarter and take a little more time to think about what it's going to do. But as you can tell, like this is a lot more than I would have come up with initially. And now I can just go in here, tweak it as I need, as I see fit, and ultimately paste it into my agents, right? That's how I go about it.
All right, you can see pretty crazy. I don't know. Even just like thinking of how long it would take to create that prompt or type it in. Just use AI to write the prompts and just heavy emphasis on the voice mode. Heavy emphasis on the voice mode.
Yeah, love it. Even using the examples and stuff like, Claude already knows the best practices when it comes to prompting. You could also like feed it in context. There are like tons of prompting guides online by Claude and Gemini and OpenAI. You could feed them into the LLM and have it use them for reference as well.
I don't know about you guys, but one thing I've found is I'd always recommend like whichever LLM you're going to use to run your agent, use the same LLM to write the prompt. I find like
Yeah.
Claude writes good prompt for Claude, OpenAI writes good prompts for OpenAI. It often goes wrong if I'm like having Claude write my prompt and then I'm running my agent on Gemini or OpenAI. It's really like they know how they should be spoken to.
Yeah, true.
Yeah, definitely
All
see
right.
that too. I think we're just Claude junkies. Yeah.
All right, Ethan, go ahead.
All right, let me grab it back. So thank you, Marvin. And what I love about voice is you share so much more nuance. And so whenever you're talking, you share things with the AI that you wouldn't necessarily type, and it just all the nuance that you give helps the AI give you a better response back. So like I say the number one thing to learn there is just get a voice app, start talking to your computer. We're always kind of yelling at our computers here at Lindy. Like for better or worse, we're kind of in this open environment, and everyone's just talking to Claude all day. So it is kind of funny. Maybe it's a little bit weird. But it's becoming the new normal. You just talk to your computer. But now I want to quickly kind of give through the Lindy 101. And so we're going to backtrack. I know talking isn't always the most exciting thing. And so we have Marvin's incredible build coming up, but this will just help us kind of cement some of our foundation of understanding what we built before and again, what Marvin is about to build. So first, just want to kind of cover steps, like the basic building blocks of our Lindy agents. And so there's two main types of steps that cover, pretty much everything. So one is our triggers. So these are events that wake up our agent. And in steps, as I mentioned, there are three types of ways to wake up an agent. So we have time-based, like every day at 9 a.m. We have event-based, like when an email arrives or when I send a text or when a file arrives in our folder. So you can wake up an agent on specific events. And then also chat-based, where you can actually talk to your agents just through a chat within the Lindy platform, kind of like a custom GPT if you guys have used those before. And then actions are essentially the steps that do the work. There's a ton of different types of actions. Going to show you a few in a bit. But for example, the add label, the send reply, those things actually go and do work. Now fields. So I know this can be a little bit confusing for people when they get to the Lindy platform, but like once it clicks, like I think this is really one of the most magical parts that makes our platform unique and extremely easy to use. And so essentially every action has blanks to fill in. When we had our label step, we had to fill in the blank of, hey, what should this label be? Or when we had the send email step, there's these blanks of what's the subject line, what's the body, etc. And so there's three types of ways to fill it in. It's really just a spectrum. So we have auto, which is magic autocomplete. I see some people asking about memory in the chat. The beauty of Lindy agents is all the memory is handled so you don't have to. So it remembers everything. If you're on step 20, Lindy's going to know what happened the previous 19 steps and be able to put in really good outputs. I leave it on auto magic autocomplete most of the time because it's just better than I can do myself. And then prompt mode is just almost instructed autocomplete. So it's using the memory and the history and then instructing the agents how to fill it in. And then manual mode is kind of our traditional fixed. Like if I put this in, it's going to be this exact thing every single time. And so forth. I don't know, Marvin, is there anything you like to highlight about fields or maybe that's something I missed or your favorite part about them?
Yeah, no, honestly, I think you're spot on. The first time I opened Lindy and like opened the Gmail, no, the Google Sheets actions, for example, like having 100 different kind of columns inside of my Google Sheet, it made it so much easier to navigate the platform because like I was used to using I don't know inside of Zapier or Make, you kind of have to reference all of the data inside of the fields. In Lindy, you can just leave it on auto and the LLM will take over most of the work for you, which was like mind blowing to me in the beginning. I still really appreciate that part.
All right, sweet. Now, kind of the theme you'll see here is just natural language. And so conditions, so we had a condition like when an email needs a reply, but conditions essentially let us create different paths on a road for an agent. So I think like a customer support agent's a really great analogy of like, hey, maybe we have this inbox being monitored, and there's all these different paths, and we want to just use natural language to describe like, hey, if they ask for a refund, if they're angry, if they're upset, if they're happy, maybe they're happy, if it's a bug report, you can just describe these things in natural language and create forks in the road for your agents, which is really, really powerful. Like no more exact x equals y. If you have people that kind of use I think you're in the right place. I bet we have a lot of people who have been pretty active in the automation community for quite some time. And sometimes it's really quite frustrating when you like had to get that exact keyword matching or things didn't line up just right or someone had a typo. The beauty of this is just natural language. You just create as many paths as you want. And they're pretty sweet. I don't know, Marvin, you have a favorite condition example or that you've seen it put to use?
Um, like the most condition I have one agent that has a ton of conditions, which is just my email agent, right? Labeling, replying to certain emails. I think that's a huge use case, and many of our customers actually use that. I think honestly, like again, this is what makes Lindy so exciting is that all of the steps are somehow like very LLM heavy, and you can use AI pretty much everywhere, which again shows inside of the conditions. We also have like recurring triggers where you can use natural language. So anywhere inside of Lindy, you can basically use natural language to build your agents, which makes it so much easier than many other tools out there.
Yeah, yeah, natural language. It's just so much easier. That's sort of definitely the theme of our platform. All right, then moving along. So tasks, we talked about tasks a little bit. So you saw whenever we switched from our flow editor view to the task view, that's where we actually saw our run history of, hey, this email was sent, and then here's, you can scroll and see the individual what happened. And so a task is like a run or a job. So anytime our agent does something, it gets logged as a task. And if you click on that task view, which is just the right of the flow editor on the top, that's like your mission control where you can see the whole run history of the agent, and then you can click into each task, scroll, see all the individual tasks, and then you can actually click into each task and see the inputs and outputs and what's going on. So you hear us the word task a lot, but task, that is what a task is. And then next, this one is I think sometimes a little bit more confusing for people, but I think it's the most exciting. Like it's my favorite step out there for sure, is the AI agent step. And this step uses multiple actions to reach a goal. So if you remember the beginning, we had, I love 9x's graphics that they're putting out on agents. Like they come out and I'm just like, man, I wish more people were teaching this stuff like the way they are. But like that spectrum is really, really useful, from like automation to AI workflow to agent. And so the agent is purely on the right end of the spectrum, where it's like a really smart intern, and we just give it an objective, we give it tools, and it figures out how to reach the task on its own. And so there's three different components when you're configuring an agent. And I like to use the analogy of an agent step is a really smart intern. And I'll show you a quick example to hopefully make it internalize a little bit easier. But so there's a prompt, which is basically like instructions. There are skills, which are tools, and then an exit condition, which is when to stop. So maybe I want my smart intern to go out and research. Maybe I wanted to go research Jan or someone else coming in. And so what I would do is I would tell the agent and give it instructions of like, hey, your job is to relentlessly research the person. Like you have to do the XYZ, all these things. Like I'm giving an objective in text. Then I have to give it skills. If I don't give my smart intern, the internet or some research tools, how is it supposed to execute and do these things? Like if you're onboarding an intern, you wouldn't just, chuck them out there and not give them access to your platforms. Like you have to give it some skills and tools. And then you need to tell it when to stop. You don't want your smart intern working in the corner all night, using all your credits. We need to tell it, hey, this is when your job is done. And I just want to show you guys a quick example of what this looks like, because I think it helps maybe kind of understand how these things work. So this is a really simple agent. I just send a message of a person, and then I have this agent step. And so you remember there's three things that we did to configure the agent step. We had, hey, this is like pretty much the objective. This is like, I like to be a little more specific, my prompts. You can also be a little more loose. It's also fun because you can kind of stuff fun instructions like, hey, be relentless at finding LinkedIn's and stuff like that. So this is the objective, is basically just find as much information about the person. And then I also went ahead and gave it some skills. And so some of the skills I gave it are LinkedIn, Perplexity, and web browser. So that just helps it go search and execute. And then lastly, I'm going to then told it when to stop, is you can stop when you've generated a full background. And so if you look at a run history of this, let me pull one up. You can see I just sent my name up here. This is a pretty old one that I pulled up, but I just sent my name. I didn't define any of these steps. So the agent on its own decided to search Perplexity, search the internet, scrape LinkedIn, and it filled in all these gaps for me just to reach the objective. And it generated this full background report, which is pretty powerful. So that's an agent step. And then Marvin's favorite part of the agent step is the Lindy computer. I'll let him touch on that for just a second while I close the door real quick.
Yeah. So you can once we actually launched Lindy Computer at Lindy, we didn't expect it to be so powerful, right? So imagine using an agent that actually starts a computer on a server in the cloud, right? And then uses a browser inside of that computer, uses the terminal to write code, and is capable of like hosting that code online, getting a public URL, and putting it on a landing page or building an app for you, right? This is what Lindy Computer Use is capable of. You can prompt it to build apps for you, to use the browser. For example, I had this LinkedIn agent to help me out with some of my comments. Um, you can also like save your credentials inside of that browser to reuse it, so you don't have to do it every single time. It's basically like having a team of agents you can deploy on a regular basis to help you with work inside of a browser, which is so powerful and has endless possibilities. So yeah, it's we're actually going to use that later on in the session. So I'm gonna talk a little bit more about it.
All right, yeah, it is pretty wild. And like I think the most surprising thing which Marvin touched on is so we just gave like the computer is just a skill for the agent. So it's like we gave the smart intern a computer, we gave it a terminal, we gave it a browser, and it just like we asked it to start creating apps and it just started doing it. And we, we didn't even intend to do it, which is I don't know. That's my favorite part about the Lindy computer as well. Now for questions, maybe any pause here. I see a lot of people helping out in the chat, which is great. But maybe time for maybe two quick questions if there are any you guys are seeing pretty common.
Yeah, there's one question I see here, which is interesting by Jason. He's asking about the difference between kind of the workflow approach here and what the agent step is in comparison to that.
Yeah, this is a great question, and to be honest, it's kind of great. I say like if something's going to follow the same steps every time, like always just make it a workflow because it's not gonna fail, it's not gonna go wrong. If there's any task that's like a little more loose, where it's like maybe not clear, like hey, the steps aren't always the same every time, or like I'm okay giving more freedom, you can go with the agent step. And then kind of the caveat with this is like every time that the AI models are getting better, the agent step sees the most improvement. And so it's what's becoming is like some of my workflows are just becoming agent steps because they're just faster to build. It's like it can execute the same as a workflow and it's just faster to build. But generally, if you want things to be fixed, workflow, if you want things to have more freedom, agent step is kind of a good rule of thumb.
And
Yeah.
then there was
And I
one
see.
question
Yeah.
from early on, which I wanted to actually get to from Bleda, which I think is quite good. So that was asking when you were first giving the introduction, Ethan, was does this
Oh
help
yeah.
with any niche? So they're a psychotherapist, a fitness trainer, and like what we really like to think is there's sort of three things you need in this, like to really
Yeah.
make the most out of AI. First, you need like an experimental mindset to actually go and like test this thing out. Then there's the technical skills, and that's you'll pick up by joining sessions like this. But really, where you'll make a difference is already existing domain expertise. If you
Oh
are a
yeah.
very good fitness trainer or if you are a very good psychotherapist, you know how your business runs, you're the best person to be setting up AI agents for it, not an engineer somewhere else, right?
Completely agree. Couldn't agree more. And that's a great question. I love that question. Exactly what Jan said is, we're a really horizontal platform and we just give you the tools so you can build in your niche. And what we see in our Agent Academy, so we run these cohorts where we train, like 100 people and we have this really exciting demo day. And the best part is, there's agents that Marvin and I, we could maybe build 100 agents a day, but we could never imagine the agents that you guys build because of the day-to-day that you live. I mean, we don't have the expertise in your domain that you have. So like we've seen some incredible like law agents, or even like in our last cohort, we had a chiropractor build this like insane note taker agent to handle all of her notes at the end of the day. And these are just, I just look at these agents and there's words that don't make sense to me. So totally just building your domain. It's where you find your alpha. Yeah. Alrighty. We're going to go ahead and keep rolling along. So now I want to quickly show text to agent, which is the easiest way to build agents in Lindy. And I also want to kind of give you guys some guidance of how to use it more effectively. So whenever you log into Lindy, you probably see this box just like this. And quite literally, all you have to do to build an agent is describe what you want in this box. It really is that easy, but there are some kind of caveats to this. Kind of like if you can think of it as kind of like vibe coding, if you guys have heard that term, where it's like, you can use it to create agents. But at the same time, it's helpful when you understand what's going on behind the scenes. I mean, also think in small tasks. I would say like, Marvin can attest to this. The amount of people that come in here in this box and they're asking for like, two accountants and like a marketing director and like all those functions in one prompt, and they get upset when it's not like one-shotting it. I promise, guys, we'll get there someday. But like for now, just think in tasks. And so I want to quickly show you guys live of what this looks like and kind of voice over what I'm thinking about when I use Agent Builder. So first, if we head to our homepage, I'd recommend just watching and then testing this on your own instead of trying to follow along. But first, I always use voice mode, and I'm just going to be very specific, and I talk in steps. Like I always like to talk in steps. So for the email agent, like we did before, I could say like, hey, Lindy, I want an email agent that every time I receive a Gmail, it gets labeled. And after it's labeled, if it needs a reply, it drafts a concise reply. Just like that. That's all I'm putting in there. Notice how specific. I'm thinking in steps. I'm giving it the tools that I'm accustomed to, just like this. This is how you can get the best results. And then what's great here is Lindy kind of disambiguates and asks questions until Lindy understands exactly what I need. Let's see. So it's asking me, hi, hey, what label category should I have? That's a great question. I'll say, you pick the categories. I like them to be action-oriented, max 5. Just something like that. So I'm just going to go ahead and keep having this conversation. And just to clarify, yes, save as draft, please. Don't want Lindy just sending these out. Typo, it's okay. Here's what I'm thinking. Yes, looks great. Analyze email, apply label, draft a concise response. Great. Oh, looks like it might be building. Here we go. So you can see it go ahead and building. So it's going to direct me to the agent it's actually building for me. So I'm going to go ahead and go to the agent, and it'll open up the flow editor. And we can see the same chat has now populated in the left-hand side. While I wait for this to build, I know Marvin has some good agent builder tips. Marvin, if you wanna drop some knowledge.
Yeah, I think I wanna emphasize what Ethan said here in the beginning. You really don't want to give it a huge complex task. You rather want to give it a super simple, tiny project, one thing at a time. You think is going to be valuable for you to replace with an agent, right? That you don't want to do yourself. And then the way I like to use Agent Builder as well is to use it for editing my workflows, right? So if I, for example, have a workflow with a bunch of conditions and I want to update all of them because my kind of use case is changing, I can ask Agent Builder to help me do that. And I also like to use the Whisperflow prompting here to make it easy for me to kind of get all the nuances for the prompt as well.
Yeah, totally. And I see some people asking some great questions like, hey, does Agent Builder cost credits? Yes, you can actually see credits running in here. So if you highlight, you can kind of see, these chats are taking, like this agent probably took like 150 credits. For context, you can think of a credit roughly equates to a cent. So if you're on the pro plan, it's like $1.50. And I know some people will say, oh, Agent Builder is expensive. We're seeing people sell Lindy's. We've seen people sell Lindy's for sometimes even over $20,000. If you're getting an agent, just like in a couple minutes for even like $5, like that's still pretty insane. If you use the Agent Builder to ask questions about Lindy, it doesn't consume credits. If you use it to build, it does consume credits. Also keep in mind the memory stacks. And so if you are trying to build this really complicated large workflow and you keep spamming the Agent Builder chat and you're like 20 chats deep, like that's probably going to drain your credits. Like that's not how you want to use Agent Builder. Use it as a starting point. Use it for small tasks. That is definitely the best way to go about these things. You can see we have our agent and it used it a different way, but same exact thing. So kind of we talked about how sometimes you can use agent steps or workflows. In this case, it put in an agent step. We can see we have specific instructions in here. We have a label and draft email skill. And if I deploy this and turn it on, it would function identical to the one we built prior. So yeah, that was pretty crazy. And then real quick, I see, because I mentioned it too, I see a couple of questions too. People are saying, can I sell Lindy's? We don't have like an official way to say sell or distribute Lindy's, but we get this question a lot. The biggest thing is for people, we have people help enable people with Lindy's. And their kind of process is, hey, I'm going to join this person's workspace. I'm going to help build and enable their team and manage their agents and get them off the ground. I mean, that's kind of the process we see right now. No like white labeling or anything like that.
But on that one, so that you're saying like best practice is to almost build in the client's account, but just for because a few people with the agency hats on, which makes a lot of sense. Every Lindy can then be shared as a template, right? So you build it, either you build it in your own, share the template in the client's workspace. There's a way that you can keep some of that IP basically that you build.
Absolutely. So if you look at here, any agent too, just as it's a great flag, you can click share. I can go ahead and toggle this on and make it a template. I could go ahead and copy this link. And now if I send in the chat, if you guys click on this, it's going to be in your account. So it's really that easy to share a Lindy. Alrighty. Well, with that, I'm going to go ahead and the moment everyone's been waiting for, I'm going to pass it on to Marvin. This build is going to be a little bit quicker. So I'd recommend if you fall a little bit behind, like just watch. We're going to share exactly how to share. We're going to share the template with you guys like on step 5. So just watch. It's a pretty powerful agent. And then again, we also have a surprise. It's a very special day for Lindy. And so we'll talk a little about that, but I'm going to hand it off to Marvin first.
Awesome. Thank you. Well, it's that time of the day. Super excited to be building with you guys. As Ethan mentioned, it might be a little faster, especially in the build itself. I usually tend to speak a lot slower, so I think that's a plus for some of you. But yeah, the agent we're going to build today is going to use computer use, which makes it super exciting. And we're actually going to do something similar Ethan just showed you before, which is like finding leads for our business, right? That we want to reach out to. And once we have information about the prospect, we take that and build a personalized landing page for them and send it out via email, which is like a lot more interesting than just sending a cold email without anything, because they can open that landing page and it's gonna be customized to them. All right, so let's go ahead and actually build it. I hope everyone has their Lindy open. If you think you don't want to follow along the side the build, feel free to just lean back and watch me build. But if you think you can keep up, make sure to build along. It's a lot of fun. All right, so I'm gonna create a new agent and we're going to start from scratch. You kind of can see this at the bottom left on this modal. And once we are in here, I'm going to close the agent builder because we want to build manually here. And I'm going to rename this agent to, let's say, landing. Oh, wow, what is going on? Agent. All right. So the first thing we want to do is we want to find prospects, right? We can reach out to. One of the easiest way to trigger your agent is to use a message receive trigger. So I'm going to do just that. This allows you to simply chat with your agent, right? It's going to enable like inside of the task view, you can literally like type in your message. What kind of prospects are you currently trying to find? And that's what we're going to use for this agent. Cool. So once we have that, I need something to go and find these prospects for me. We have a couple of options to choose from. We have integrations with Apollo, for example. You could use an API scraper to find them online. For this example, I'm going to keep it simple, and I'm actually going to use People Data Labs to find people, right? The action is called search for people. And what this does is it literally finds people by broad criteria, including their email address. Usually it will return information about their LinkedIn as well. So that's going to be a double win here. Cool. We can define how many people we want to have this action return. You can kind of see the cost for it. It's like 15 credits per contact. So for this example, we want to keep it to 1 just to save some credits, because best practice when you're building, when you're testing, like keep the amount of steps and like loops and iterations and stuff, keep it to a minimum to save some credits while building. All right, we can leave the search query on auto because we're going to literally tell the agent what we want to find in the end. So I'm going to keep that. Let's add a new step right here and enter the agent. Now the agent step is pretty helpful here because I don't know yet how to enrich information about the person we already found, right? Sometimes it's going to return like the LinkedIn. Sometimes it's going to return information about the company. But in case it's not returning all of that information, I just want an agent to make the kind of decisions I would do in order to find more and enrich the data we're looking for here. and I've prepared a prompt for you guys. I'm not sure. Do you still see my screen on Notion?
We're just in the Lindy dashboard, we see. Yeah.
All right, let's see. I'm gonna share desktop. That should work.
Yeah, looks good.
All right, cool. So inside the Notion doc, you'll see on the right, the agent number 2, landing page agent. We have this agent step. And if you open that toggle, you can copy that prompt that I literally created with Claude, voicing over it, just as I showed you before, right? Easy. I'm going to paste that guy into this. And it's a pretty intense prompt, and Claude like cooked something up in here. But the main idea is to use a bunch of tools to enrich all of the information we're kind of looking for here, which is like information about the prospect, the company. It's supposed to use Perplexity to do some research, which is pretty cool. Now, we have the prompt, but we need to make sure that the agent actually has access to those skills as well. All right, so let's scroll down on the configuration right here. And you'll see this tab right here, skills. If you click that plus icon, we can add as many skills as we want. You want to keep it to a minimum though, because all of the information about the skill itself is gonna like populate inside of the context of the agent. So if you already have like huge prompts, you don't want to add like 1,000 skills to your agent because it's just gonna confuse him, right? It's kind of like Ethan always has this example of, hey, if you have an intern and you want him to do one thing and you give him like 1,000 tools to do that thing, he's going to be confused, right? So we want to give him the exact tool it's supposed to use and make it easy for the agent to make the right call. So I'm going to add Perplexity as a skill right here, which is the search Perplexity tool. It's super cheap actually, and it's very powerful. I highly recommend it for most of these kind of research tasks. You don't need to have an account for Perplexity. It already comes with your Lindy subscription, which makes it super easy. And then I'm going to add another one, which is the LinkedIn. I am looking for LinkedIn profiles by URL, right? Another very powerful action. So this will return information about their LinkedIn profile, obviously. But not only that, it will also give me information about like how active are they on LinkedIn. It will also give me lookalike profiles, right? So if you're interested in like finding more prospects like this is the tool to use. Pretty powerful. So you could potentially use that one tool call to get like, I think it's between 10 and 15 lookalikes, and then loop through all of them and basically continue that unlimited prospect search on LinkedIn. At some point, it's probably going to like water down and like change the kind of ICP. But yeah, it's potentially very, very powerful. All right, so one thing we're missing here is the step 1, which is using a Google search, because I told it to go on Google and use like the site parameter to find the LinkedIn profile URL, which is exactly the way I would do it on Google to find someone, because it makes it really easy to get that specific, to get only LinkedIn results on Google, right? So I'm going to add another skill. This one is, if you go to the By Lindy tab, you should see the web browser options. And we have a bunch of them in there. The one we're going to use is search the internet, a very simple one. Cool. I'm going to pause for a second here. How are we doing? Any major questions so far?
No, I feel like we've been battling the questions in the chat. I guess.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, then I'm gonna keep rolling. Once we found the prospect, I personally want to add them to a list on my Google Sheet. And I actually shared that spreadsheet with you guys as well inside of the Notion doc. So if you click that link, right here, link to spreadsheet. You should be able to open this one. Let's see. Making sure that you have the right one. All right. So I just want to add my prospect now to this spreadsheet, and I already have defined the columns inside of it. Basically the data I'm looking for, and I'm appending a row. And once I added this action, you probably want to authenticate with it again using your account. And I'm gonna look for the sheet I just created, the outreach log 9x template, and the sheet title is prospects. Cool. Now, this is the magic I've been talking about before, right? I have a bunch of columns inside of my sheet, and Lindy's already populating that inside of here and putting everything to auto. So I don't really have to think about like defining what I need inside of each field, which makes it super easy. One thing we're seeing right here is that in between the agent step and the append row, there's a little warning sign. And every time you see that, you kind of want to double click on that and make sure that everything is set up correctly. This is the exit condition for the agent. So the agent is capable of like calling all these different tools we just defined and taking a bunch of steps. And we want to make sure that the agent is capable of like stopping at some point and continuing inside of the workflow. In this case, I can simply say something like exit once the task is complete. That's usually my go-to to keep things super simple here. All right. So that was step number one. We now are capable of finding prospects, enriching them, and adding them to our sheet, right? Just like I did right here. Let's see. Right. I already did one example.
I think, Marvin, could you share this link again? Because I think it might have got updated when I'm clicking in the Notion. And it seems like most people were getting the competitive Intel AI agents for operators template.
Oh, yeah, that's the wrong one. Let's see.
And also, once Marvin copies this, very important is you will need to make a copy of this spreadsheet and copy it into your own Gmail account. You won't be able to write directly into Marvin's sheet. That would be a little bit chaotic. And so that's really the way that Lindy is designed, right? That you're basically writing into your own systems.
Exactly. So this should now work. Can I share this in the chat as well, maybe?
Yeah, I can share it. All good. It looks good.
All right.
Perfect.
Perfect. Oh yeah, I see a bunch of people now. Cool. So you can see I already ran this previously, and I found an AI engineer in Berlin, actually, working for Eon. We got his LinkedIn, we got a couple of pain points, and we got some enrichment data we can now use in order to build a personalized landing page to reach out to them. All right, so let's do just that. Now, inside of Lindy, one cool thing you can do is actually have multiple triggers inside of one agent or workflow, right? So this is what I consider one part of my agent right now. I'm going to build a second part, which is the landing page building, right? So I'm going to add a new trigger. If you right click anywhere in the empty flow editor, you can add a new trigger. And this one is going to be a new row added by Google Sheets because we just we just added a row right here. And this will actually trigger this agent right here, right? To make it really easy for us to do basically nothing other than sending one message in the beginning, right? So you want to paste in your own copied Google Sheet URL, right? So make sure to make a copy. And then you want to enter the sheet title. I think it's prospects. Yeah, exactly. Prospects. And you should be good to go. Now, we already have the enrichment information about the prospects. Now we want to start a computer right? I was a bit quick. So perform an action and then Lindy computer and then start a computer, right? That's how you get the computer use agent. So the way this works is we first need to start the computer, and you can kind of define whichever computer you want to use in here. You can add more computers if you like. And one computer is basically just one server instance in the cloud we can use for this example. And all of them are going to have like distinct browser and browser sessions. So I have, for example, my personal computer I use for most of the stuff, where all of the sessions are already stored inside of the browser. So none of the websites I interact with are going to be suspicious. Not super relevant for this use case because we're just building a landing page, but just for context. You can also configure the computer. So if you click that, it will open a browser. I'm not going to do it right now. It will open a browser and you can log into LinkedIn, for example. And after that, your agent is going to be capable of using that session again and again. Cool. So we have the agent step with 3 skills right here. We need to use the terminal, we need to use the browser, and we need to get a public URL. The public URL is going to be needed to basically, it's hosting the code for us and getting a public URL we can use to send out to the prospect, right? So there's one thing we're missing here, which is the prompt itself. And I've actually prepared that one for you as well. This is it right here. It's actually missing a little bit. Let's see. That's it. Cool. So let me copy that guy, go back to my agent step and paste that in. So you'll see we have a bunch of placeholders in here that we can now populate using the enrichment data we found earlier, right? And I've prepared a simple HTML template to kind of show you guys what you can do with it, right? It's going to be fun. All right, so this agent is going to build the landing page for me. It's going to get the public URL for us. Now, the last step is, well, we want to send out an email to the prospect, right? So let's do that. I'm going to perform an action. I'm going to click on Gmail and then send an email. And I actually have an email template for you as well. A super simple one. Let's just use that. Click on prompt AI instead of the body. And then we can use that prompt to send out an email for the subject line. Let's say keep it super concise. Max 5 words. Right? And then again, for the exit condition, exit once the task is complete. Cool. So I'm going to hit run and kind of iterate on what we actually built here for a second, okay? So I'm going to test this agent, click on message received, and now I can say, find an AI engineer in Berlin, Germany. That's it, right? Boom, sending it off. Now you can see like it's going ahead, searching for people using People Data Labs. Now it found someone, right? Pufai, oh my God, I'm gonna butcher his name. Is it the same guy again? Wow, I think so. Now it's doing a bunch of research on the internet and on LinkedIn, and that's the power of like the agent step, right? I didn't exactly tell it how to approach the research here. I just gave it some best practices and the required tools to do the work, and it's doing a bunch of search queries, which I don't know, like I don't have to do now. And it's going to find information. Then based on that information found, it's going to use that to do more searches, right? So it's really powerful to use just an agent step to do these kind of things. Hopefully in a second, we'll append the row. We got the data. We got information about the team, etc. The pain points. Awesome. All right. And while it's running, Ethan, Jan, any major questions here?
The most common question is still on like the credits side of things. So maybe as a guide, do we have like how much would have this run cost, just to give people an idea?
Yeah. So the fact that I just used the test model here means that Lindy actually gives you 500 free credits for each of the test runs. So in this case, it didn't cost me anything, which is cool. So it's below 500 credits. That's all I can tell you for this one. We have a billings overview. I can actually share with you guys as well. To make this a little easier. And generally speaking, like agent steps are usually more expensive than building it out as a workflow, just because it's going to most likely do more steps than you anticipated, right? Because it wants to do a great job, right? It wants to find enough information. If you define it as a workflow, right? First search for the company on Perplexity, then use LinkedIn to get their profile information. That's just 2 steps. As you can see right here, we did like, I don't know, 10 or so. And you can also define that, like how many steps it's supposed to take inside of the agent prompt, which I highly recommend actually to limit it to maximum. But yeah, maybe I can show you how much the second part of the agent costs.
But I think in general, because this question does come up a lot in a lot of these live sessions that we're running here at 9X as well when we're building these agents. And one thing I would always like caveat is maybe coming from the world of like engineering or automation, where there's sort of like this race to the bottom, what can be the cheapest. But if you equate any of these workflows to a person doing this manually that you're employing, the cost of running these Lindys is like chump change, right? So really keep that in mind. And I understand if like you're new to this and you're trying to get into it and it's very hard to like, okay, I'm going to buy the $150 a month plan and put my own money behind this. But that's why like it's super generous from you guys also to give the 5K credits for this audience, but really try and also balance it out because we're really replacing knowledge work here or like some parts of a knowledge worker's process.
100% agree. Yeah. Cool. We got the agent working. It got triggered. It started the computer for us. It was using all of the information we got on the sheet. And then we used the computer to write some code, and you can actually see it right here. Like it's written a bunch of code, which is amazing.
It's insane.
And then it started the computer for us, a browser session to actually check on the landing page it built and see if everything is working or not. And it figured out, hey, it seems like it's working. So the task is complete. We actually sent out the email as well. I didn't have it. I could have just drafted it, but Pufi is gonna receive a cool email here. And if we go to that landing page, it's actually publicly accessible, right? So this is the page we just built using the Lindy agent. We're actually having the CTAB like watch some more 9X tutorials.
Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
Yeah. Join one of the workshops. And that's just how simple it is, right? This is a very, very simple example of an agent I just built. You can think of a ton of ways to extend the functionality here and also make this a lot more scalable, right? We could literally, instead of searching for one people, we could like, if we already have a lead list, for example, we could just go loop through them, enrich all of those leads, send them to our landing page builder. Obviously, the landing page builder is not super cheap. So you want to do that for like high quality prospects only, if you think they're worth it. So yeah.
Yeah. I don't know what you guys like. I don't know. I get a lot of emails in my inbox, and most of the time I just ignore them. If someone was like, Ethan, I made you a landing page, like click on this, and I would open it. I'd probably at least respond. Like this is it's a new game.
That's really cool. We had one question here, which is quite important. Is where did we actually find the person's email address, the prospect's email address?
Yeah. So the action that returned the email address was People Data Labs right here. So if you're in the task view, you can actually open these action cards in order to inspect the data as well. And what we'll see is that, hey, the agent made this crazy SQL query for us. I have no idea on how to write that stuff, but it did a great job of doing so. And if you check the results right here and open the People tab and open that first item, you'll see a bunch of data returned. One of them is the recommended personal email address. We got the phone number as well, and a bunch of more information about the experience, education, the LinkedIn profile, even Facebook URL. That's interesting. So
and
yeah,
this is
that's where we
one
got
other
the...
area that I think, like, as a builder, that I really want to highlight, because with other tools, and like while there's always this like cost versus convenience trade-off, what I really like in Lindy, like most tools, you do not need an API key or your own account. So here, obviously, the People Data Labs action is more expensive, but Lindy put it there in clear thing that it costs 15 credits to run this. But I don't need, like, I think they're like, I can't imagine how much their monthly subscriptions would cost, or for all of these different platforms. So as a builder trying to test out and build these agents, it's just super convenient that I can just connect to any of the tools without worrying about creating an account in that service, funding that account with credits, that it's sort of all managed inside Lindy.
100%, yeah. The last thing I want to mention here is, because Jan, you mentioned the credit cost. I actually have the cost for the landing page builder here, which is the second part, right? So we paid 56 credits for building the landing page as well as sending out the email, which is equivalent of to like 56 cents.
That's crazy. That's crazy.
Yeah. All right, I'm going to hand it over to you, Ethan.
Ethan, I think we've lost your audio, perhaps.
Nope. Maybe you have to switch to your mic, Mac mic.
Maybe while Ethan is getting reconnected, Marvin, I can throw some more questions your way. So one thing from Jason early on, which was quite good as on, and it is a thing that I think it needs to be spoken about, is so that Jason asked, one thing that he's been quite nervous, paranoid about, is giving agents in general access to emails, computers. So what type of security is in place from like the tool side, from Lindy's side, to prevent something bad from happening, whether to protect from bad actions or bugs, or is it more on the user side in terms of, like, you do need to have a bit of responsibility yourself in terms of how you build and prompt these systems, right?
Yeah, you're spot on.
Can you guys hear me?
Both.
Yeah,
we
you're
can
back.
hear you.
Oh shoot.
Yeah.
I don't know if I
right.
can hear you guys. Oh wait, I changed my speaker. Oh, there we go.
Perfect.
Sorry, I'm back.
All good.
All right, thank you guys for your patience.
Marvin
did I miss anything? Or?
Marvin's just answering one question, and then we'll jump back to you.
All right. So I think you're spot on with it's both from the user perspective, you kind of want to be aware of, hey, like, don't share your API keys with like people online, for example. Like if you give the API key to an LLM and then have it send it via email to someone, well, that's going to be a mess up, right? We have a bunch of security functions in place to avoid some of the stuff users are capable of doing, but we cannot avoid all of it. But one big thing I can tell you guys is that because people ask me all the time, we do not use your data to train the LLMs, right? We have contracts in place to not do so. So since we're like enterprise API users, we have these custom contracts where we specifically, if we pass information about your email to an LLM, OpenAI and Claude and so on are not going to use that for training. So you're good on that end.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Alrighty. All right, guys. Let's let you know how to access these templates, and also want to give you a little preview of what's coming to Lindy in about, maybe 30 minutes. This is at least something I've been asking for ever since I joined. The TLDR is there's a lot of new marketing stuff launching today. What I find, like what I love, is we have generative video and generative image. And so what does that actually look like in Lindy? I want to give you guys a quick preview of an agent I built. So this agent, it takes in a product image, and then what it does is it turns that product image, it generates 10 different scenes that you would have like a professional photographer take. Then it creates a really crazy prompt. Then it sends it to Nano Banana, and we get these like really awesome product shots. And so what this looks like in action is I actually only submit an image and just hit go. And so you can see I put in, some Nike sneakers just like this. And, from that's all I do. I just hit enter, and I'm just hands off the rest of the way. It creates like these 10 different shot concepts. Like, you can see all these things just like that. So it's creating all these concepts. It's a really awesome prompt of like you're an expert creative director, and it's pretty cracked. But then let's actually look at what this looks like. So then it takes that concept and generates this like really specific prompt like this, based on the prompt I gave it. And then we get a ton of product images like this. Like think how much money Nike's like paying to like produce these things. There's a ton of these. Like if I keep clicking, maybe there's a few different ones. Like that's a deconstruction one, like a motion blur. You can just do different objects. Like I was trying different stuff, like golf balls. You can put in any object. You can really just take a picture of their iPhone. So images in Lindy are crazy. Marvin also built a really awesome agent where you can just take a picture of yourself and have like a ton of different Halloween costumes. I think, is that what it is, Marvin? Did I get that right?
Exactly. I put myself basically in a ton of different Halloween costumes just for fun.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think we have to have another session because the chat's already asking people for you to teach them how to do it. So it's
Totally. Well, the best thing for this is for both of the Halloween one and the image one. I think we can have another session, but we also want to give it to you guys. And so Marvin, if you want to drop the links in the chat, actually we just posted these, and if you comment on them, our agent's going to reach out to you, and it's going to send you this whole guide, and I can show you what the guide looks like. It has the template link. It has like a more in-depth tutorial to help you guys. Then it also has more of the templates that we talked about today. So Marvin, if you want to drop those in, just go drop the comment Halloween or agent, and those will be in your inbox. But I'm pretty pumped about this. Like generative media like really unlocks a whole new layer of just like what you can do with these things. And yeah, I don't know. Did I miss anything, Marvin?
No, that's it. We're entering a new sphere here. It's super exciting to build these kind of agents now.
Yeah.
Asset creation just got scalable with agents. It's insane.
Yeah. I was testing a few. This one's kind of funny. I was like put in a picture of toilet paper, but you can just do all these objects, and it's just like really cool. Like really for asset creation, like you can tell the future is like let's just generate 100 and pick the best one. So times are changing, but yeah, so stay tuned. There's more coming at 10 a.m. Yeah, so stay tuned.
That's awesome. That's really cool.
Okay. Alrighty. Well, thank you, Jan. Thanks for having us. This was great. You guys made it really easy for us. Like we definitely should run it back. But I don't know what you thought, Marvin.
Yeah, love the energy in here. Thank you guys for sticking with us till the end. Props to you guys. You made it full 90 minutes. It's been a blast for me.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think just in general, the message, like I mentioned it before, like getting into this stuff, it does require a bit of an experimental mindset. So of course, not everything's going to run for the first time. I know also being in the seat of Ethan and Marvin, when you're showing stuff, something you just think is like easy and understood. And if you're in the audience, it's like, won't work every single time. So take the time, watch the recording that we'll send out tomorrow. Also, as you can see, follow Ethan and Marvin on LinkedIn because they're sharing these templates and tutorials like literally daily and weekly. And even if it doesn't click the first time, hopefully you can, be a bit persistent with it. But it's really, I think, important and valuable to be playing around and getting these skills. Perfect. All right. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we'll see you in the next one. Bye.
Thank you so
Thanks
much.
a lot, Marvin
See
and
you
Ethan.
guys.